Welcome back, friends, to part two. I'm so excited you found it. This next segment, we're gonna have a series of quick talks. Quick talks are 10 to 15 minute talks where people are gonna just share their heart about how they got to where they are, to pass little sweet nuggets to us about how we can begin to implement that in our work. And so our first talk is from Marcel Woodruff. Marcel is a Fresno native who is a graduate from Bullard High School, and he's gonna tell us about the time where he didn't know he had a major in college and what that looks like. So here's Marcel.
So it's my first day of college. I'm sitting in a gymnasium, and a lady walks up to me. She says, I need you to go to the Norman C. Francis building because that's where the computer science majors are gonna be having their orientation. I look at her and say, I'm a computer science major? She's a little annoyed, but she says yes. And then I ask, but why? She doesn't answer the question. She goes on to the next student and tells them where their orientation is gonna be. Later, I found out that I was, in fact, a computer science major. Why? Well, because when I was 16 and applying to colleges, I checked the box that said that I wanted to be a computer science major when I went to college. Now, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just following the script. You go to high school, you go to college, then you get a career. I figured I checked the box because at that point in time, I loved video games. So here I was on a trajectory of a lifelong career that 16-year-old me had chosen. But computer science wasn't that bad. I figured, all right, cool. I'll do this for 4 years, and when I leave, I'll emerge as a wonderful video game designer. Little did I know that my first job after graduating with a degree in computer science would be in a small medical office running a lab, testing DNA samples with a computer and doing small IT work for a system of about 30, 40 workstations. A far cry from what 16-year-old me had in mind when he checked that box. But the years I spent in intentional community in the great city of New Orleans and on my college campus taught me a lot. And it also gave me permission to break the script. You see, when I walked into that office, I didn't just see a livelihood, I saw potential. I saw potential to give back to my community in a unique and creative way. So, for 13 years, I labored as a lab tech and an IT tech, and I mentored thousands of young people in the city of Fresno, and became a respected leader and a mentor throughout the city. I could have easily walked into that 12 by 15 foot space and felt that I was gonna be isolated, dislocated, removed in this small pocket of this office and only serve one purpose, and that's to work for a livelihood for myself and for my family. But I saw in that space an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to interweave this small 12 by 15 foot space into the 110 acres that surrounded it that makes up the city of Fresno. I never saw my office as dislocated from the community, but rather a place where I could master and perfect the impact that I could make on my community as a leader and someone who deeply loves his people. By this point in life, I had learned that a fruitful life is one spent in the service of others. And through committing myself to serving others, I found a new worth, a new value in life. And my value in life wasn't about comparing myself to others based upon pay scale, position, or education levels, or differentiating myself from others based upon difference that we may hold. Rather, I found a value in finding those points of connectivity, those bonds, those intimate connections that bring us all together and make us all one. So, in those 13 years, this is what I did. I would educate the community about what I was learning and seeing in the laboratory and the different diseases that were prevalent in our community. And on the second half of the day, I would bring in young people. Young people would come in, they'd bring in their computers, they would bring in their auntie's computers and so on and so forth, and I would help them fix them, and it would take them back into their communities. And that evolved into me developing over a dozen programs in that 13-year span designed to empower young people and deploy young people into the city of Fresno. So when I think of work, I think of an ecosystem, right? A system designed to curate, sustain, and propel life. Traditionally, we understand this ecosystem in work as something to sustain one's livelihood or something to perpetuate some sort of business or economic interest. But for me, that was different. For me, the ecosystem of work rested on centering and focusing on love. Now, don't get me wrong, I did not love my job. I did not love my job's pay. I did not love my position, but I loved the opportunity and the potential it gave me to give back to my community and create long-lasting, nurturing, powerful relationships with young people who went out to advocate, transform, and encourage others. To me, I found the ecosystem of love that drove me to want to go to work daily because I was excited about what I would learn that I could take back to my community. And it's that love and that ecosystem of love that ultimately drove me to a place where I saw how work really matters.
Thank you, Marcel, for sharing with us your heart and your passion for Fresno. And next up, friends, we're going to hear from a gem of a human, Angie Barfield. Angie is a program specialist for the Student Intervention and Prevention Department for the Fresno County Superintendents of Schools. And Angie has a huge heart and passion for our students here in Fresno. So let's hear about how we can live on purpose with a purpose from our friend Angie.
Hello, my name is Angie Barfield and I'm a native Fresnan, and I'm happy to be here with you to have this discussion on living your purpose on purpose. There's a quote that I live by that has helped me move through every step of the way that I have taken. And that quote is by Dr. Asa G. Hilliard III that says, "The only thing that stands between us and excellence is our beliefs." So let's take a look at determining what's my purpose? Why do I do what I do? And am I really doing what I'm called and chosen to do? So the first step in determining what's your purpose and why do you want to do the things that you do is determined by you understanding what's your foundation? What makes you who you are? What's going to drive you to continue to move through and to do what's best, not only for you, but for the others we are called to serve in this world? For me, my foundation were three very strong women who are responsible for my parents, who instilled in me service, perseverance, and resilience. You'll see on the slide, the first woman is my maternal grandmother. Her name is Ruby Smith. She grew up during the Jim Crow era and also just post-slavery. She picked cotton. She picked vegetables. My mother picked cotton. And to this day, it still makes her cry to even think about the fact that she's not far removed from the very things that some of us push off as, that's then, it's not now. What's your reality? What's your foundation? The woman in the middle is my paternal great-great aunt. Her name was Tisha Walton. She resided in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. She had a third-grade education, but she taught and instilled in my father what's the right thing to do. Sure, he was a knucklehead. We all are, right? But that shouldn't matter because that was his foundation. No matter what he decided to do, he could always hear that voice in his head saying, do the right thing. And the woman on the far right, her name is Hazel Shute. And she was, let's say that she was the honey in the tea. We always looking for the tea, right? We always want to know. But she was what sweetened it and reminded us of the goodness that lives within us is what makes us the most important factors in the lives of others. They all taught me the importance of faith. They all taught me and told me and assured me that no matter what, God has to be first in your life. He must be first in what you do, and he will carry you the rest of the way. The other two photos are my children, the two that drive me now in the work that I do in education and the advocacy for children. It was their voices who said, "Mama, something is wrong. This just doesn't make sense." And instead of me, as with many of us, just being okay with the system, they challenged me to be better. And that led to me finding my purpose, which is the last photo. I was blessed with the honor of being on the cover of the State of the University by Dr. Joseph Castro, who now serves as our CSU chancellor, because he saw in me that I was cheering for the very children that the world had given up on. And he reminded me that being bold is okay, because we must serve those that God has put in our presence in order for humanity to grow. So let's talk about sharpening your vision. You know, everybody was talking about 2020, clear vision. That was what everybody wanted to say. And then COVID hit. So did it clear your vision? Did it sharpen it? Or did it cloud it or pull the cover off of things that you saw that were wrong, but you were much more comfortable being silent about? We can no longer live that way. And when you're living your purpose purposefully, intentionally, COVID should not have stopped the work that you were doing. It should have only magnified it and given you more drive to ensure that everyone that God has put in our care was taken care of, was fortified, they weren't struggling. Sure, it also unveils some bitter truths about our community, about our country, but it should not have been a surprise. It has been here for a very long time. And if anything, for me, a woman of color in America, I was relieved that now more people can understand and see the strife that we are dealing with within my community and how it affects so many others. It is time for us to get to work. This is how you live your purpose on purpose. My purpose, student voice. It is time for our children's voices to be heard in order for us as a society, in order for us as America to get this right. We've been given a second chance. Sure, is a pandemic a good thing? Absolutely not. But if we look at it from another lens, this is our opportunity to get this right. Let's clean the lens of hate. Let's ensure that our children are being educated equitably. And stand on that and be okay with that and not stay silent anymore. We must do it. As Amanda Gorman said to us, there is always light if we're only brave enough to see it, if we're brave enough to be it. Are you ready to be? I know I am, and we can do it together. Your education is probably one of the most important things you will ever encounter. Sure, college is not for everyone, but education is important. That was what was instilled in me by my grandmother and my great-great-aunt, my parents, and now my children. When I started in education, which was my mom, put me in school, K through 4, I was in private school, all Black, where I was assured every day of my brilliance and excellence. But because my mother had to make a choice, I had to be placed in public school. And I will be transparent with you. It was the worst experience of my life. It made me hate school. I didn't want to be around people that didn't look like me any longer because I wasn't affirmed any longer. I was told how ugly I was and how stupid I was. And I went all the way through, and I carried that with me. Why is she sharing this? Because what you do to a child as early as 4th grade in their life can decimate their trajectory. But thank God I had women praying for me and people praying for me long ago that knew that my trajectory would come back to fighting for the very children who felt what I felt all those years ago. I found my way to Fresno Pacific University, but I didn't go into education. I went into organizational development and leadership. Why? Because if the system isn't fixed, it will continue to perpetuate the harm and the trauma that is placed on our children. I remember that feeling, and I had to relive that feeling in order to live my purpose. And then, of course, my children and what they had to go through in this system and how it made them feel. I was beginning to find my purpose because I was paying attention and listening to that little voice in my head that said, you got this, and you can move on it. And I was given an opportunity. Don't ever look an opportunity in a way that isn't purposeful. There's always a reason for something being brought your way. I am now in a doctoral program at Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta, Georgia. Go Panthers. Why Clark Atlanta, Angie? It's an historically black college, and it was always my dream to attend one, but it's the oldest graduate college in the nation for African Americans, and it brought forth some of the most brilliant minds that we have ever learned of in our history. It's the best place for me to learn my truth and to grow. So ensuring your children put education in their path, whether it's 2 years, 4 years, 6, or in my case, 10, it doesn't matter. But education is the key that will unlock the doors to a lot of opportunities, leading you to your purpose. So influence matters. When you are living your purpose, what is your influence? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it harmful? What is it? Remember, children don't learn from people they don't like. Is that you? Are you making an impact in their life? For me, it was Phyllis Roberson, my 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher. After going through those many years of harmful, traumatic experiences, who reminded me, you are beautiful, you are smart, and you will get through this. So what is your influence? What are you doing? But understand, you must respect the presence and the existence of children that don't look like you. And don't be surprised when they resist you, when you don't give them that which they have earned and deserve from us as educators. And little side piece, be picky about where you spend your time. You waste your time with people that are not relevant, it's just like wasting money. I know I don't like to waste money. Do you like to waste money? Keep that mindset. Keep everything mindful. And your legacy will speak for itself. Your children, the adults that you impact, will never forget what you have done, which is why it is so important, even through COVID, be intentional about the goodness that you give to others. Don't think about what you're going to get from it. Think about what it's going to do for them and the trajectory that it will continue to have for them to keep going. We must stay mindful that everything we do will have a consequence. It will be an influential piece. And right now, more than ever, in a country that is so bitterly divided, we must live the purpose that God has put on our life, regardless of what that may be. So continue to be influential. Decide what it is you want to do, no matter what. So a challenge for you as a leader and a community person, living your purpose. First thing is, find your comfort zone and leave it. We can no longer be comfortable with how things are. We must change the way we look at things and how we serve people in our communities. And lastly is working hard for something we don't care about. It's called stress. But working hard for something you're called to do and love is called passion. Know the difference between the two and find the way that you want to serve others. And lastly, but certainly not least, good trouble. John Lewis, rest his spirit, he told us good trouble is necessary. We must interrupt the way things were done and do them differently. So if you are questioning what is my purpose and why should I do this, think about John Lewis on the top of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Had he not lived his purpose, he would have not gone down that bridge. He would have not taken the blows that he took on behalf of us. So as you go out and do what you feel is your purpose, remember John Lewis. It's just good trouble. God bless you.
Friends, after listening to Angie, I am fired up and thankful for the work that she does here in our city. Now, friends, there's been a lot of words so far. And if you're anything like me, I like to have music as a way to sit and reflect and think. So next up, we have a friend of mine, Matt Shaver, who is actually an accountant, but has a huge heart for music. He uses music in a way to process life, his emotions, and his faith. He seeks to create an art that is honest and authentic, and I think you're gonna see that in this next song. Here's my friend, Matt Shaver.
This is all I've got. Trying to keep believe. Is this what life is? When will I arrive? Blindness is keeping me. In my head all the time. Point me to what's right. Tell me where he is. He has begun a work in you. He will finish it. What seems like an endless sprint will become more. You'll see. Help me keep tapped in. To what keeps me sane. This is all I've got. Trying to keep believe. He has begun a work in you. He will finish it. What seems like an endless sprint will become more. You'll see. Iron sharpens iron. Let this hope grow belief. Iron sharpens iron. Let this hope grow belief. Iron sharpens iron. Let this hope grow belief. He has begun a work in you. He will finish it. What seems like an endless sprint will become more. He has begun a work in you. He will finish it. What seems like an endless sprint will become more. You'll see.
Thank you, Matt, so much for sharing your gift with us. And up next, we are going to hear from Adam Abajian. Adam Abajian is really cool to me, friends, because he is one of the youngest real estate investors that I know. He is buying and flipping houses here in Fresno. He's going to talk to us about how he discerned his calling to go the real estate route instead of following to the traditional college route. Here's our friend, Adam Abajian.
Hey everyone, my name's Adam. I'm a real estate investor here in Fresno. I fix and flip houses, a little bit similar to kind of what you see on HGTV. Not as nice as it seems, but that's kind of what I do. I'm super blessed to be able to be here today and talk about work with you guys. Work's a very interesting thing, and I know most of us don't even really think about it, but for the most part, work's really one of the main things that identifies our life as individuals, and we put a lot of our identity into work. For example, times when you meet a new person and pretty much you'll come up to them, you introduce yourself, they say their name back, and what's the next thing we all typically say? What do you do? Or what do you do for work? And how do you react to that? Some people have positive reactions and some people have a lot of negative reactions about that. Are you excited when that question comes up? Maybe your ego's coming out a little bit and you do something very interesting and you want to share it, or you make a lot of money and you want to tell people what you do. Or is it the latter? Maybe you're a little bit shy of that question. Maybe your work isn't that interesting. Maybe you got laid off, or you're just not passionate about what you do. And so that question, maybe you kind of shy away from it, or you don't really have a positive experience with that question. It's also kind of like that time when you're in college and you're going through it and you're at a family event and your family members are saying, well, what are you doing after this? What are your plans? Where are you moving? Where's your job? And you're like, hold on a second. I still got a couple more years to figure stuff out. You know what I mean? So it's a little ironic for me to say I didn't really go to college that much. I did for a little bit, ended up dropping out. But I remember that question so vividly, and I hated answering that question because at the time, I didn't want to go to college and I knew it, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so that question was very scary for me to answer because I felt embarrassed. I didn't know what to say. But whether you have a positive or negative experience to that, what do you do question, or work in general, I think we can all pretty much say that we put a majority of our emphasis on our identity in what we do for work. So how do we make the work that we do actually matter, both to others and to you yourself? I'm not really a person for numbers. I said I didn't go to school that much. Obviously, you can tell I don't like it that much. But I was doing a little bit of research kind of before I came here and found something pretty interesting that I wanted to share with you guys to kind of set up what I wanted to talk about today here. I think we can all agree that spending time with friends, family, loved ones, whatever that may be, is the most valuable time that we have. We want to do more of it. We wish we could do more of it. And again, it's one of the most valuable things we can do in this life. And I read on average, we spend approximately about 40,000 hours over our lifetime with our family and friends and loved ones, whatever those actions and time may be. Now, I don't know if that's a lot or a little, depending on the month, week, year, whatever that might be per day, whatever. But I do know the next stat. And again, on average, we spend approximately 90,000 hours working. That's a quarter of our life. And I don't know what that breaks down to, day, week, month, whatever. But I do know that that's double the amount of the time that we spend with our family, friends, loved ones, etc. So there's a famous saying, you could call it an idea, whatever you'd want to call it, by a guy named Malcolm Gladwell. It's actually in his book. It's called the 10,000 Hour Rule. The idea is to truly master anything you're doing, to become an expert, the top of the line in your profession or in your industry. You need to spend 10,000 hours of work and repetition and practice on that specific skill to become a quote-unquote master at that skill. So at the end of our lives, we might spend a lot more than 10,000 hours on one skill. After 90,000 hours of work, you might think we'd be at the top of the mountain. We'd be living like kings, having everything we wanted. But why, sometimes at the end of our life, do we look back and feel like we didn't really accomplish much with those 90,000 hours? Maybe we didn't feel like we contributed that much to society, even if we made a lot of money or accomplished a lot of things. Others may feel that they spent half the time working, but they're so overjoyed and energetic. So why is there that disconnect there? So let's take a step back. What does work look like for you guys? Since it takes up so much of your time, do you really enjoy it? Is it something that is life-giving, or does it drain life from you? Are you energetic to go to work and happy at the end of the day from what you accomplished or what you learned? Or do you come home drained, unenergetic, and dreading that quarter of your life, that we call work? Why do you work is another question, that entails in that. Some people might say they work, for the weekends. They work that Monday through Friday to have that time off on the weekends. That's completely fine. And some people work just to survive. And I'm not hating on that. I've done that myself. Honestly, more recent than I would have liked. But I think we can all relate to that. We work to survive, just to put bread on the table, to provide for our basic means. And at some point, we all probably have had to do that or might have to do that in our lives. And then there's some people that might not want to say it, but the reason that we're working is to make a name for ourselves. And I'll be honest too, I could raise my hand in a room full of people. That's maybe not the only reason I'm working, but that's definitely something I'm working for. We're here to be important. We're here to leave a legacy, and we're working to make sure we're remembered. But sometimes we get so caught up in that we are spending all of our time on working. We're not, unless we're going to change the course of history, our name's going to be forgotten at one point. My great-great-grandfather, I know he was a great businessman. He made a lot of money, did a lot of great things, but I honestly don't even remember his name. And that wasn't too long ago. So things happen and things change. So what's the purpose of that whole 90,000 hours? Is there a goal? Is there a standard of what we need to achieve by the end of our life after we've clocked in all those hours, over our entire lifetime? The question really becomes, how do we make work worth it and all those hours that we have in between? And how do we make our work matter, both to others and to ourselves as well? And so I think we can all agree whatever job you do, whatever role you fill, it matters. It's important. Whether you're a doctor, maybe you're running a nonprofit organization, you might be a retail employee, you might be working at a coffee shop, you might be a trash collector, whatever it may be, everyone's work matters in this world at some point. Whatever you're doing fulfills a role in society and for something that really needs to be done. Besides that, God even says that we were built for work, and He gifted you with specific talents and skills to be able to carry out that work in your own specific and unique way. So we get that work matters, maybe in the economical standpoint, maybe in the religious standpoint too. It always matters, but ultimately why and how your work matters is solely up to you. There's a couple ways to look at this. The first is how you're able to make your work matter to other people and be a service to them, to add value to them, to be pretty much a contributor to society. The second is what you're hoping to get out of work. You know, the reason why you put in those hours for the paycheck, besides the essentials for living. You know, what is your passion? What is your goal? What do you want to get out at the end of all of this? You know, for me, I'm in real estate and I flip houses. But when I started off, I really didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't really know why my work mattered. I didn't know what I was doing as a service. All I knew was I'm buying this house and I'm going to make money at the end of it after I renovate it and flip it. I had no concern with anybody in the transactions. And again, just like everybody else, I was just seeing the money starting off. At first, I would buy a house directly from the homeowner. If you're watching and you own a house, I could even be someone that buys your house. I would do it just like that. You know, these homes aren't typically livable homes. They're in very bad shape. And so the people that own them usually are in some distress or have some problem that I need to help them out. But in the beginning, all I was focused on was getting the house how I wanted it, not figuring out a problem or a solution for those homeowners, but just taking it into my own hands and completing that transaction and making my check. You know, for me personally, I'm very conversationable, outgoing, caring, and I started to use those skills and all the connections I had to kind of change the way I approach my business. So instead of coming in and looking at how I could serve myself, well, how can I serve the people I'm working with? How can I make my work matter to the people that I'm interacting with? So for me, maybe the homeowners were hoarders. I've encountered it dozens of times where they have piles and piles of trash, unbelievable amounts. You know, what am I going to do with that? I could buy the house and say, you deal with it, you take it out, and I want it all done before I'm purchasing the property. But instead, maybe I could take a different approach and say, you know what, I know you guys need to move this out. Let me get the people that I know. I'll pay for the trash bins. I'll pay for the people to come over. We'll move this stuff together for you. Now I'm getting what I want, but I'm also being a service to them. And that's a totally different outlook on what I'm looking to do and what I'm hoping you guys can understand as well. You know, maybe my services aren't even the right fit for that person, so instead of trying to force them into working with me, I might go use my network and connect them with someone else. You know, using what skills that I have to really be a service to the people I'm working with and making my work matter to other people. You know, I know it's not a huge difference maybe, but instead I really am focusing on switching kind of what I'm doing into being a service to other people. So how are you maybe able to use your unique skills in the job that you have? Maybe you don't think it's something where you can really excel in. Maybe it's a job you don't like, but what skills do you have right now that you might be able to use and better that job, better the experience that you're having, and brighten someone else's day or really just be of value to someone that you're working with or for? You know, then later on, I kind of took a step back and was like, why am I working for myself? What am I getting out of it? What am I looking for? You know, why was I putting in all these hours and hours and hours of work? Was it just to make money? I mean, at first that was, the reason. And I think everybody can say that. I was spending hours and hours on work, getting away from my friends, getting out of communication, and just really focusing on what I wanted to do. And it was not fulfilling whatsoever. I liked the business that I was in, but I was not fulfilled at the end of the day. I know that everybody has their own reasons for working, but at the end of the day, especially when we're at the end of our lives, I think we can all agree we're working for freedom, whether that's time freedom, financial freedom, etc., whatever that may be. We want to hit a milestone maybe where we have enough money so that we can kind of limit or eliminate the work that we have. So we can go enjoy time with our friends, with our family, take vacations, travel, relax at home, whatever it may be. So does your work reflect the reason that you're in the work, that you're working in the first place? Does your work or your job that you're doing match that end goal that you have in your life? Maybe you want to spend more time with your family. You want to work more so you can have more money to take off of work and spend time with your family. But right now you're in a job that may be taking 60 hours of your week and you don't get to see that family. So maybe those goals are misaligned, or maybe you're working for freedom. You want to be able to not have a boss, but right now you have one that is controlling every move you make. So I really challenge you to think about your work and why your work matters, both to others and to you. But also think about how you can make your work matter. I mean, again, we know that work matters in every way. Every job, every role has a reason, whether it's filling a role economically or you're using your gifts that God has given you to fill out his purpose. Whatever that may be, your work, your job, it matters. It has a role in society. But the real impact you have is solely up to you. You can take that job and that work and transform it into whatever you might like. So to make your work matters to others, just think, are you serving people? Are you making an impact in what you do for your work? Or are you simply showing up and clocking in and calling it a day? You know, we all have a unique skill set that we can use to maximize the work that we have and make an impact on other people's lives. So that's one area to focus on how your work can better others. Now, to make your work matter to you, is your work aligned with what you want your life to look like? Is it aligned with those goals that you have later on in life? You know, maybe you might need to take a bigger step back and think, well, what are my goals later on in life? What do I want my life to look like? You know, if you want to spend more time with your family and friends and boost that 40,000 hours in your lifetime of time with friends and family, boost that number up, well, maybe you might need to reevaluate what you're doing with work. Maybe you might be fit in a different scenario to where you can still work, but you can really spend more time with what you want to do, and that work is maximizing essentially what your end goal is. Now, don't get me wrong, there's going to be times where we got to put our heads down and just work to survive, to make money. We've been in a pandemic where a lot of people haven't even had work in the first place. So maybe you might be thinking about this and saying, well, right now I don't have time to think about getting a job that can give me more time with my family. I just need to make money. And I completely understand that. I've been in that situation this year too. But in the end, we want to set ourselves up with work that not only betters ourselves, but betters the people around us and creates a life that we want to enjoy. Because work is really a big part of our identity. And we want to make sure that identity is something that we're proud of, we can pass on, and something that we really, really are passionate about. So regardless, we can always make work matter. We just need to approach it in the right way. So again, I challenge everyone listening to find out how you can use those unique skills that you have. You know, God has given you these skills, and be able to really use them to make an impact on the lives of others, your family, and yourself. And I also challenge you to find out what you truly, really desire from life, really what your end goal is, what you want, and pursue work that matches that goal. And I guarantee you, you're going to love what you do, and your work's definitely going to matter.
Thank you, Adam, so much for sharing your heart and your time with us. So friends, that wraps up main session 2. There's one more session that's going to happen this afternoon where we're going to hear from one of our friends up in Spokane, Washington, Kevin Finch. You don't want to miss it. See you then.